Have you ever felt your dreams grew old before you did? There's a particular kind of silence that lives inside the forgotten. It's not the same as loneliness, nor is it the peace of someone who chose to retreat. It's a colder silence, like a room locked for decades where the curtains remain shut and the air no longer moves. In that stillness, dreams don't die. They sleep, dust-covered, like books no one reads anymore. For a long time, I walked inside myself with my head bowed, not from sorrow but from habit, the habit of not being remembered, the habit of expecting nothing. I saw myself as an abandoned house atop a hill, its windows no longer reflecting light, only the opaque residue of accumulated time. The roof tiles creaked with the wind, but no one climbed the path to visit anymore. Inside me, the furniture of old dreams was covered in white sheets, and each sheet was one more day of not believing, one more day of not trying, one more day saying too late. But something, a breeze maybe, stirred one of those sheets. A nameless memory, an ancient glance, a forgotten melody. And for a moment, just a moment, the heart opened one eye. There was a time when I dreamed of streets I'd never walked, voices I'd never heard, destinations that had no names. But slowly, I piled up the didn't happen, the wasn't time, the not for me. And when I looked again, the wall of no's had completely enclosed me, not out of cruelty but out of fear. Dreaming hurts when you wake up alone. And so, I gave up without a sound, like someone turning off the light in an empty room. Have you forgotten yourself too? Walked through your own ruins without recognizing them? Wanted to dream but felt ashamed? I did. And sometimes, I still do. But something is shifting. When I was forgotten, no one told me. There was no siren, no letter, no final conversation. I was slowly set aside like a suitcase quietly pushed into a corner. First, the invitation stopped. Then, the replies grew shorter. And finally, the words that once said, "You matter," lost their breath. But that wasn't what hurt. What truly hurt was the fact that I was still here, breathing, waiting, existing within an absence no one else seemed to notice. It felt like walking through a fog-covered field where every footprint vanished seconds after it was made. You speak, but the fog swallows your voice. You wave, but no one looks back. And then, you stop trying. Because even trying screams louder loneliness than silence. My soul became a waiting room. Not one with old magazines and broken clocks, but a deeper kind. A place where time is not measured by minutes, but by gestures that never came. Each morning was a return to the surface of an interrupted dream. A daily ritual of rising, half-wearing hope and facing a mirror that no longer reflected expectation. Only the outline of someone slowly fading. There was something almost sacred in becoming invisible, as if the world whispered, "You are no longer needed." And I, not knowing how to respond, started to agree. I became an accomplice to my own abandonment, replaced brightness with fatigue, plans with small distractions, and faith with the function of simply continuing. Continuing without direction, without being called, without being seen. Just continuing. But even in forgotten soil, hidden seeds still sleep. And perhaps time, in silence, still tends to certain roots. There was a time when I stopped dreaming completely and didn't even notice. Days moved like windowless corridors. I walked, did what was needed, fulfilled tasks, but all without a center, without flame, without horizon. Just movement out of obligation. A body functioning but a soul in exile. The strangest part, no one noticed. Because the world rewards those who pretend well. And I became an expert in appearing whole. Pain became a secret language no one else spoke. And slowly, I convinced myself that the absence of dreaming was normal. In that darkness, I met a figure. Not a person, not a hallucination. More like an archetype, a presence. The keeper of the extinguished flame. He didn't speak. He simply held, in his darkened hands, the remains of an old candle. And he looked at me. not with pity, but with a rare kind of silence that accuses. The flame he held was mine, what was left of everything I once imagined. It was there, cold, small, forgotten, and he seemed to ask, "Will you let it go out for good?" But I didn't know how to rekindle what had dried inside me. The wood of my dreams was soaked in discouragement, and the winds of time seemed to blow against every spark. Still, something moved in me. Not courage, weariness. Weariness of denying who I was, of accepting slow death as the only path. And then, not knowing why, I reached for that dead candle. And in that gesture, almost useless, a spark danced. The keeper didn't smile. He simply disappeared. The first dream didn't return as a scream. It came as a whisper. There was no revelation, no epiphany, just a flicker, an involuntary image that visited me on an ordinary afternoon. I saw myself walking a wooden bridge over a silent river, a place that never existed yet felt like home. And there, midway across, sat a child with my former eyes. He didn't speak. He just played with a box of matches, striking one after another, watching each flame bloom and vanish. It was as if he asked, "Do you remember when you still waited for miracles?" That image stayed. It never left me. I began to dream again, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't endure the emptiness any longer. The heart, tired of self-protection, made room for vulnerability. And the dreams, fragile as blown glass, began to take shape. They weren't grand visions or promises of a future. They were small desires: to care for a plant, to write a letter, to listen to the sea. Simple things. Mine. Strangely, the more I honored these small, quiet dreams, the stronger the fire grew. A coal lit inside my chest, timid, but alive. Not to light the world, but to remind me someone was still in there. Me. The one who had been forgotten even by himself. The one who once believed too much, hurt too deeply, silenced too often, but still breathed. To rediscover the dream is not to shout to the sky. It is to hear what always whispered within you. To welcome the voice you yourself buried, and in that long, patient listening, find what never left. It was simply waiting for you. Dreaming again wasn't an act of courage, it was a return. Not to old plans or youthful ambitions, but to that part of me that never stopped striking matches in the dark. The flame that survived wasn't made of promises, but of presence. A quiet heat that simply said, "I'm still here." And that changed everything. Not a new life, but a new way of inhabiting it. The world didn't notice my change. No one knocked at my door. No sky opened. But something inside repositioned itself, like old furniture finally returning to its rightful place. I began to inhabit my body with more fullness, to see my days with less haste, to accept that not every dream needs to be vast, just true. Time doesn't return what it takes, but it offers the now as sacred compensation. And in that now, I began to plant, without guarantees, without an audience, only with a soul exposed to the wind. I still feel fear, still feel forgotten sometimes. But I've learned that being forgotten by others doesn't erase my own presence, that dreaming is a secret faithfulness to what makes me alive. And every time I light a candle, no matter how small, a part of the darkness bows. The child on the bridge still waits. And now I walk toward him. Because some dreams don't need witnesses. They only need someone to carry them with reverence. How did I return to dreaming, even while feeling forgotten? It happened the day I understood that the world forgetting me didn't mean I had to forget myself. That somewhere inside, a fire still flickered beneath the ash. And that dreaming again wasn't a miracle. It was remembering. Remembering who I had been, who I still was, and who in silence had always been waiting for me to return. I dreamed again, not because someone called me back, but because moving forward without a dream felt like moving forward without breath. And in that moment of recognition, a small ember glowed. I didn't chase a future. I lit a present. I didn't seek greatness. I sought meaning. And that's how I returned. Not by striving, but by listening. Not by being found, but by remembering the path home. If that ember still flickers in you, leave a comment. There is still fire in me. Share this with someone who still carries matches in their soul. And subscribe. Sometimes we need stories to remember our own.